Good morning, or good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you're at. Today I am sharing my testimony. So here it is. I was born February 3rd, 1993. My mom and dad had me, and they were around 18, right? They weren't married at the time. Then they got married. My dad left when I was two. Um, my mom had my sister Alyssa, then had my sister Jessica, and then my dad had my sister Simone, and then my brother Noah with another woman, and then my mom met my brother's dad who had him. And there's all my siblings. That's a very split family. Early on, I don't remember much from my childhood outside of, well, due to an individual tortured my sisters and I. He physically tortured me from the ages of 5 to 6 to, I want to say, about 10, 9 to 10, because at 10, they sent me to my 10 to 11. They sent me to my uh, the first treatment center, psychiatric center, because I was just crazy because I was being tortured. My sisters got it different. The other aspect. I was physically abused. They were, well. That's their story. They can talk about that, but everybody gets the point. I was tortured. When I mean tortured, it wasn't just like, oh, let's just I abused you. No, no, no. It was anything that this man could to think of to use. He used it. Um, he One time he counted out the belt being spanked on my butt. It was a studded belt, one with studs on them. 100 times. I had metal studs on them. It was 100 times. And he literally did it until I couldn't feel any pain anymore. I was numb. And then he kept doing it, right? Obviously, because he finished the 100. And there was multiple times where he did that. I was handcuffed to the bed, and people were thinking that when he handcuffed me to my bed, and when I went to sleep, that's when he went and did the thing with my sisters. Well, after that, after he was left and whatnot, you continue further on down the line. I was going in and out of treatment centers. Uh, I, I I went in one when I was 11 to 12, and I just kept going. Pretty much every year. I think there was only one year where I was not in a treatment center of some kind. Just one. Outside of that, it was a total of seven. I want to say 6 to 7 combined. I want to say it's either 6 years when I was younger that I was in treatment centers, or seven. It sits in between there. That's total time I was in treatment centers. Total time. I think like I said, there was either 1 to a couple of years where I wasn't in treatment centers when I was going to school, and that was mainly around Moriarty and maybe Moriarty Middle School. No, Moriarty High School. Moriarty High School, and then I was in El Dorado one year, and then I think was it. I think it was it. Outside of that, I was just in a treatment center. Around the age of, I want to say 14, my sister came up to the 13. No, because I was 13. No, 14. That's 14. It had to be 14. Had to be because I was 6. No, I was still young. But regardless, my sister confessed in what he did to them. And she said, please don't tell anybody. And I said, you either tell mom or I'm going to tell mom. Either way, mom's getting told. And that launched that whole investigation. As per usual, criminals in Mexico, especially of that breed, he didn't end up getting the full time. It went from like 48 years, 49 years to what was it? It was life. Then it was to 49 years. Then it was to 29. It like cut it in half. Then it went to 18. Then it was 17. and then went to 9 and 7 with good behavior. I don't even think he spent that many years in there. Either way, it was bull. And I was angry. I was extremely hateful. People think that it's like understatement. I was the worst brother on the planet. During that time, I was absolutely evil, so lost, so angry. Like, I was just, it was bad. Like, people think like, oh, it can't be that bad. No, it was bad. The doctors had me on high doses of medications. It was so bad. I remember blacking out and saying something to my mom and threatening her, which I love my mom, but I don't remember saying it. Needless to say, the doctor got in trouble because he had put me on 1,000 milligrams of Seroquel and a bunch of other, just a juice cocktail of just disgustingness. And it was 1,000 milligrams of Seroquel. I don't know why I was on that high. Every other ADHD drug, ADD drug during that time, Ritalin, they just gave it to me like candy, dude. I think I had more meds when I was younger than candy itself, which could explain how bad it was. But it was bad. It was legendary bad. It wasn't just like, oh, this is just a kid going through it. No, this was just way worse. It was amplified. And I think it was because of medications at the time that they were just like chucking into my system. Like I was just some like garbage disposal. Yeah. During that time when I was younger, my mom gave me a dog, White Fang. That was probably my memories with him, that dog, are probably my only fond memories of when I was a kid. That dog was amazing. He saved my life at 13. He died. I had him at 15. He died when I was around 28. 27, 28. He was about 15 years old. He was an amazing dog. Champion of a dog. Dude was amazing. He was awesome. My memories surrounding him, walking him, raising him were probably my only good memories. There was maybe a few going when my mom's ex-boyfriend Chris around the country in a semi-truck when I was younger for like 2 months during a summer. It was probably the only other one. Outside of that, it was just treatment centers and just horrible. Horrible. And then around the age of, I graduated, right? There was, I graduated high school. I failed freshman year, right? Completely bombed it. Completely. Straight F's across the board. I was short and fat, like really short and fat, and had pimples, and people bullied me. Senior year, I came back. Again, I was through treatment centers at the time. I didn't just stay at El Dorado High School. It was freshman year, I was at El Dorado. 10th grade, I think I was somewhere else, and then I went to Cibola, because then when I went to TFC at the time, I played the system, which then I went back into later that year, I went back into, for 9 months, I was in Mesilla Valley. It was, crap, I can't remember it. Can't remember the hospital, but I was in 9 months in the treatment center. And then John and Stephanie, they took me back into treatment foster care. Treatment foster care, for those that know, is TFC. It's treatment foster care. It is not permanent. It is a step before foster care, because my mom didn't know what else to do. My mom didn't know. At the time, my dad called. I remember him calling and criticizing my mom at the time for sending me into TFC, and because he thought she was giving up on me or whatnot. And I got mad at my dad. I was just a loose cannon. You popped the cork, whoever popped the cork was getting it. And that's just how I was. I said some really nasty and horrible things to him, and I didn't speak to him for a long time. But yeah. When I came back from Cibola, right, pretty much John and Stephanie, and my mom talked, and they would send me on a, what they called I can't remember what the technical term, but it was a trip with my mom. I would spend several days, and with my mom and whatnot, and they would report back and then give me back to my mom and tell my mom and tell me how it went, everything, behavior, everything. They ended up just, it went good enough to where my mom could take me back. I went and graduated high school. My bully stayed the exact same size. I didn't. I sprouted. I went to 6'2". No, I was 6'1". Sorry, 6'1", and I was like 210 pounds. I was a big kid at that time, and they stayed the exact same size. About 5'6", full of nothing, and that was probably my only other good memory as a kid, because it's like my bullies just got stuffed without me even doing anything, because they walked by and they said hi, and I said hi, and I walked away, and I was like, yes. It was great. It was great. And that was that made me laugh. I met a couple guys named Alex and Jose, and we became longtime friends. Well, and that comes into play later. Graduated on time. I had to take a whole full year of. I had to go through, because I came back to my mom out of treatment foster care before summer, right? And we were getting me registered. It was like around like May when I came back out of SEBA. I left for that. I finished out the school year with SEBA, and we found out that I had to take summer school. So that summer, when I got back, I spent it in school, and I graduated on time somehow, miraculously. I had a full year at senior. Most people, I think the first day I had 4 classes, and then they realized, oh, you need these 3 other classes. So I went from 4 to 7 classes, and I was fully stocked, and I graduated. Walked the line. After that, I wasn't really doing much. I was playing a lot of video games. That's all I was really doing. And I was working at jobs. I was working at Sonic, I think, at the time. And then my mom talked about me coming up there to live with them. At the time, she was with a man named Carlos. Well, I went up there. But it didn't go that way. It didn't go easy at first. I was planning on running away with my best friend, Alex. I would live inside his bedroom, right? This is what the idea we cooked up. I would live inside in his bedroom. I would stay in his closet, right? At night. And when he leaves during the day, I would leave, and then I'd come back, and he would just let me in the room. And I would live at his place. He would eat his place, and I would just camp out in his room. That was my plan. I don't know. Something prompted my heart. I wasn't saved at the time. Something prompted me to just listen to my mom. I don't know what, as I didn't really listen to anybody back then, much less my mom. She was probably the only one I listened to the most, but even then it wasn't that much. Something prompted me to just listen. And I said, no, man, I can't do that. I have to go. So I went. We were raised around church. I got baptized when I was 10, right? I was just going back a little bit. I got baptized when I was 10, but I wasn't saved. Only did it. The reason why I did it is to make sure my great-grandparents knew I was okay. That when they died, that I would be okay. That's the only reason why I did it. I didn't do it because I believed in Jesus. Didn't do any of that. Well, I get a job with a man named Doug Reams up here. And I also worked Sonic at the time, because Carlos, I didn't know it at the time, but this was found later on, much years later, that he was also into drugs. And my mom never exposed it to any of us. Like, he was into meth and stuff. And that was later on, but at first he wasn't, and then later on, when I left, he got into drugs and stuff. He started with marijuana, and then that just evolved into that when I left to go to basic training. But I was working 2 jobs, because apparently he wasn't working, even though he had a job. I don't know what was happening with the money, but it was just, I was, pretty much everything I made from Doug Reams and Sonic went to the house. Little did I know at the time that I was actually helping my mom pay bills, because he wasn't paying. I didn't get anything. Well, I got some money, but I didn't really get much of anything. And she felt really bad about it later, and she said she was going to pay me back. And I said it didn't matter. Carlos used to try to fight me a lot. And his kids eventually came up there during that time. I was like 19-ish, 18, 19, because And his son told me the reason why he tried to fight me because I was actually the only one that posed a threat to the house. Tried to fight me all the time. It was bad. My mom had to get in between us because PTSD kid. It was just not a good time. And then one day I was outside. I think he was there. We kind of had a good relationship, but then we didn't because he tried to fight me, like I said. I'm going to close this door because the air conditioner came on and it's like a jet. Let's see. Where was I at? Oh. I was outside one day. And something prompted me. I need to get saved. And my mom was like, what do you mean? You were baptized when you were younger? And I was like, no. And I told her, I need to believe in Jesus. I need to get saved. Because at the time we were going to church. And I was going to church every Sunday with my mom. And God started reaching out. In the middle of a desert. Brought me to the middle of the desert to get saved. It's like so many stories about salvation in the middle of a desert. It's crazy, but never thought mine would be one of them. But literally just started reaching out. I said, I need to get saved. So one Sunday I came forward and said that, and they planned for it. And the date of that was June 23rd. And that was about 12 years ago. So what's today's date? It is, I know it was June 23rd, but I forgot the year. I don't know, my brain is kind of fuzz in the morning. Okay, it's April 25th, 2000. Okay, it was June 23rd. Yeah, it was 2 years after. Okay, yeah. It was June 23rd, 2013. Pretty much 2 years after I graduated high school, which is when I was saved. I was at 18 at the time. So yeah, timeline matches up. I just want to make sure because there's a lot. There's a lot that I have to spill out. And I remember praying myself, my first prayer to him. And I just said, Lord, I believe in you. I believe in what you did. I believe that Jesus came and died for me and he rose again. I said, I believe in you. And I was expecting it to be this like grand thing, like heaven would open up, but it was quiet. That Bible verse where people look for the storm or this and the earthquake, but it's a whisper. It was like that. It was quiet. I got baptized, it went under, came out. Mom was crying. I was crying. Everybody was shouting for joy. Then the real work started happening. After that, I was going to go into basic training, right? But after that, when I was training for those 4 months, I spent a long time in the Word on my own. I never read the Bible. I tried reading it before when I was younger. I went from Genesis to Exodus and I couldn't read it because I wasn't saved. There was no pool. There was nothing in the Word because the Word is spiritual and it's spiritually understood, and it just was like gibberish to me when I was younger. I just couldn't read it. But that's all I would read. I read a bunch of fantasy and like Percy Jackson and the Olympians books, and even those started like getting pushed out. Just pushed out. I just spent nothing in the Word. Carlos was a false teacher. Little to know, actually. It was cracked. Everything that he was telling me, just when I would read the Bible, say something completely different. I was like, this doesn't make sense. He's saying this. I'm saying this. I'm going to trust the Word. I trust God's Word. I trust God's Word. Went to basic training. I lied to get in about a heart problem. Okay. Let's get to that story. They ended up losing my physical paperwork, which doesn't happen. The recruiter said I shouldn't be telling you this, but they lost my physical somehow. It disappeared. So I went it again. Right? Lied. Did the duck walk. Same thing. Went in. Right? It wasn't till then they asked me again. 3 times. When Peter denied Jesus 3 times, just like God asked me again to tell the truth. I didn't. It wasn't until I was carrying a private who had stopped taking all of his medications all at once because that's what his recruiter told him to, and he needed to be on them up the stairs, that I decided, I'm gonna tell him, because it is serious. It was SVT. My heart rate gets up to 230 beats per minute. That's exactly where it goes to. When it happens, it's the opposite of a heart attack. If that happens when I'm in the middle of physical training and I have to stop, I can control I have like breathing exercises I do, right? But still, it's not good. So I ended up leaving basic training through a long process. It was around, I want to say, December of that year. Where they pretty much medically discharged me out of basic training. They said I could come back with the 3 different doctors' approvals, 3, and medical paperwork saying that I wouldn't be a liability. So that's what I did. That's not what I did, but I left. So I left. But I could go back if I wanted to. I could go back now, even though I'm not. It was around December when I came back. I know that because at the time, I don't remember when I came back from basic training. Again, there's a lot that's gone on in my life, like a lot. Some details get kind of foggy because it was winter in Georgia, and winter there sucked. That was cold like I've never experienced. It was a wet, freezing cold that sucked. And it was raining, and the ground would freeze in the morning. It was just weird. It's like, what is this? I miss snow. Went back home. When I landed, and my grandmother picked me up, the first thing out of my mouth is, I need to find a church. That was the first thing that came out of my mouth, outside of hi, and how are you? Went back home. My family was kind of disappointed, but they weren't too disappointed. They understood I told the truth. My room was back. It was like a soldier's bedroom, and I felt bad. But you know what? Life went on. I went to church, and I found this college group at Hoffmantown Church. And then I started going to church and going with this group that's called Converge at Hoffmantown. And I met a bunch of amazing people there. And people were like, well, Matthew, that's an awesome story. It's not it. My testimony doesn't just involve me coming from not being saved to saved. There's one more thing that God knew that I was going to go through. There's one more thing that he would have to take me through, because I had a lot of idols. Like, I came from it was a broken family, right? It wasn't like, they're very, very divided. And just, there was a lot of stuff that God had to do. And I was, during the time when I was going to Converge, I was trying to walk with the world. Walk with one hand in the world and one hand with Jesus, and that just wasn't working. Greg Elder, he said that I was pretty much starving with a bread of loaf on my arm, the Bible. He was mentoring me at the time. And, man, God increased my knowledge. I mean, he's still teaching me, right? God increased my knowledge of the Bible during that time. He increased my wisdom a tad. I was pretty foolish back then. Still kind of foolish. He increased my knowledge of everything. Science, astronomy, everything. Cosmology. Because during the time when I was working at Walmart, while I was going to church and everything, and serving the Lord, there's this agnostic, atheist individual that kept challenging me with all the science stuff, and my knowledge just increased exponentially about how the universe works, and I would be talking back and forth to him. Eventually, we got past everything, all of that, right? And he finally admitted that the reason why he wouldn't believe in Jesus because he would send a good person like him to hell. And that's why. And I told him, it's like, no, he's right there. He's offering you salvation. But he didn't want to take it, right? So the whole science stuff is smoke and mirrors, because eventually I actually started blowing past all of that. Like I said, God increased my knowledge about all this, about how the universe works, and their bait and switch uses and stuff like that, what they used to do. And it was really heavily in debating him. And that's what it was about. Which was sad. Because now he won't even talk about it now. I pray he gets saved. I don't even know where he's at now. That was so long ago. But yeah. I went on a couple mission trips. San Francisco, we went to minister to the homeless inside San Francisco. There's a lot of homeless in San Francisco. And that is where God gave me my calling to minister to people. Because Greg said I had the gift to gab, is what he said. I could walk up to anybody, any random stranger, just have a full-blown conversation with him. I wasn't afraid. I wasn't shy. I was nothing. I was just like, what? I said, hey, like we were old friends. We knew each other for years. He said, you have the gift to gab. I was like, what does that mean? It's like, you'll figure it out eventually. I read through 2 Timothy, and God called me to ministry. Specifically ministering to the homeless, just ministering to people on the street. That's just what he called me to, and that's what I did. I went to San Francisco. It was an awesome time. It was so amazing. So many memories, man. Pictures all over my Facebook of me in San Francisco. It was such an awesome time. During the time, I also, I think it was either before that or came back, I was trying to help a pastor move, and I couldn't because I got drunk at 21. I was drunk. I got drunk, and I woke up with a hangover. I helped him move most of it, but I had to go home. Word got word to the college pastor, Mike Keybone, and I remember one day he prayed over me because I was also drinking heavily at the time. I was getting addicted to it. I was just straight guzzling, like it was water. And Mike Keybone prayed over me, and he says, Lord, I pray that you make that taste of alcohol so disgusting he gets sick around it. And he just prayed over me. He had a testimony behind that and how he overcame all that and whatnot. So he prayed over me. And eventually one day I was in Walmart. I've been around alcohol, right? Because I was working at Walmart at the time. And I was still working for Doug Reams, the contractor dude that lived in Conscious, right? He also moved to Albuquerque, and I was still working for him part-time. So, they spilled alcohol. And the smell, normally I would be fine. It was gross. It was just straight disgusting. All beers eventually tasted the same. All alcohol now tastes the same pretty much. It has the same taste. Tastes like medically. It's gross. I can drink something if it's like food up, right? I like Jim Beam and the way it tastes with burgers, just the taste. But I could drink that if I want, if I force myself, right? If I force myself with like Dr. Pepper or something. But to give you like a story, my dad used to take me out and get me beers, a Blue Moon. Eventually, he stopped giving me Blue Moons because all I would do is I would drink the first little bit and then order like 7 Dr. Peppers. Like I could not drink anymore. I can't now. Like I said, there's a bottle in the fridge, and it's for cooking. That's all it's for. It's for steak and marinating, and I just can't cook. I can't drink it. I just can't. So I prefer Dr. Pepper, which is still not healthy, but it is what it is. After that, there was an opportunity to go to Israel, which I went. It's illegal to talk about Jesus in Israel. Anybody that tells you otherwise just hasn't been to Israel. Because when they're there, they told us it's illegal to talk about Jesus. They did. It was for Bridges for Peace. They did do stuff behind the scenes and stuff like that to get the gospel out. Because of course we don't listen to men. We obey God. God says do the Great Commission. We do the Great Commission. They just have to go around the law, which is very illegal. But it doesn't matter because the story needs to get out. Jesus needs to be told. Anywho, further along the line, pretty much just When I tell you the experience, we had to do ministry in a way. We had to let our actions be known. You'll be know them by their fruit, right? We were, we pretty much were the hands and feet of Jesus. That's what we went to the type of ministry. We cleaned up their vineyards. We cleaned up their vineyards. We painted a couple of houses, cleaned up a bunch of houses, and we toured the place. It was a physical ministry, not less a talking ministry point, and more of like a retreat. But it was still a mission trip because we were still witnessing just by our actions. And when I tell you, like, God just spoke to me in ways. I was on the Sea of Galilee. I was in Capernaum. The temple where Jesus taught at. When I tell you, and God was slamming me, like, dude, I remember breaking down in ugly tears. I drew away from the group, and I broke down behind his temple, and I just started where he taught at with synagogue, or the synagogue temple thing. I guess it was synagogue or whatnot, where Jesus taught at. That's where he taught at, and I just broke down behind the building or the ruins. I just started crying. I was so broken. Because at the time, I was still living very frivolously. I was kind of promiscuous a little bit. Walking with one hand in the world, walking with one hand with Jesus. And I remember coming to the moment where God was calling me to follow him. Like, to really follow him. To really just, like, go out in the world and make disciples of the nations. And he was real to me before, but when God it's kind of like it was a burning, but no, it was a Jonah moment. It was a Nebuchadnezzar moment for me. When God was giving me a directive, and unlike Moses, who came to the burning bush and just like run away, I pulled Jonah. I was still attached to many things of the world at the time. I didn't want to surrender fully. That's part of it. Part of it was shame. Because how I lived when I was younger, when I wasn't saved. And even a bit when I was saved, the things I did. I was just so ashamed. I accepted his grace, but it was like I couldn't accept it fully, that he could forgive me. And he did forgive me. And so it was a mixture of Nebuchadnezzar, shame, and just Jonah running. So I did. I ran. After that, came back. I was too old to be in Converge anymore. God was calling me to maturity, right? I was just too old. I was 24, 23, 24, 25. I think it was 20, 23. But I was too old anymore because I wasn't in college at the time. So God was calling me maturity, and I ran away. There are several times he approached me during that entire time. When I first started running away, I went from meeting at a Converge to meeting with this married couple, Tabitha and Russell Baker. They were awesome. Because during that time of me running, there was a lot of things that happened in my personal life that just were crazy. Me and my sister were arguing and fighting all the time. Police were called a lot. Nobody was ever charged with anything, but just I was. It's like when that parable when Jesus says that you get the house in order, right? I got the house in order. I got everything nice and neat, but I didn't. God was calling me to maturity to continue letting Him fill my life with His Holy Spirit, and that demon just moved back in. It was 7 times worse than it was when I first got in. And every time I thought, am I going to fall even lower than this? Is this rock bottom? Dude, rock bottom just got worse. Just recently, we had a Bible study on Deuteronomy 28. And when I tell you, I'm sorry, that chair is getting uncomfortable. When I tell you, nothing I did. Dude, you read Deuteronomy 28. I ain't going to read the whole passage to you. But literally, it is curses that God will place on in Israel if they don't obey, right? They don't follow Him. And let me tell you, dude, the curse, dude, nothing I did lasted. Everything fell to ash. I was homeless at a time. It was so bad. I almost committed suicide, right? I was in a treatment center. Depression. I don't believe in depression. I believe in extreme sadness. Dude, it was just everything. I gave away so many good jobs. Just went from job to job to job. And I buried myself into video games to kind of dull the pain of everything that was going on. And at the time, I had gotten so angry because a lot of the people that said that we were family at church were no longer there. There is still some, and there has been some that have stayed. But a lot left. Some unfriended me. I lost a lot of people to whatever. Well, some stayed, and they're with me today, and today's they're still here today on my Facebook and my life, and they pray over me. They're just not directly involved in my life anymore because they're in different places. But there's some people that stayed, but most didn't, and I was very angry. I was very angry at the church because it's like they said we're part of the family of God. Well, family to me, that's like permanent because I was raised like you just heard that none of my siblings have the same dad, right? Well, me and my Simone and Noah do, but we don't have the same mom on his side. And my mom, none of my siblings have the same dad. My mom always raised us, that's your brother and that's your sister. But period, the end. There's no step. Step doesn't exist. If we even tried to use that word, it was scary. No, that's my brother, and that's exactly what it is. Dylan's my brother. Jessica's my sister. Alyssa's my sister. Noah's my brother. Simone's my sister. That is it. There is no step. There is no step. So that's what I view family as. Like you're thick and thin. You through the highs and through the lows, and like extreme lows. And at the time, it was extreme low. I literally would tell you that Deuteronomy 28. If you read that, that was my life, dude. Nothing. I didn't like get diseases like as far as that goes. I did get sick. My strength waned. I was super strong, super in shape. And that was just taken from me. I went from 230 pounds in shape, strong, powerful, to 440 pounds in a matter of 5 years. And it still didn't stop. Eventually, I came and moved back up with my mom. And I still gave away jobs. Then we come to God calling me back. It was a total of 7 years where I ran from Him. Yet He called me back. All of that, I'm sorry. He called me back. He took me to the place where I was saved, a desert, Um, and he started calling me back. Why? It's like, God, you just saw what I did. You saw how I lived. You saw all of that. You knew it was going to happen. Why are you still here? And, well, that's just who he is. So, over the course of the last 2 years, my faith and depth in him has just, dude, it's crazy. It's increased so much. God, again, gave me the calling to follow him into ministry. And this time I didn't blink and run away. I completely forgot my pastor, my mentor now, Tom. He's the pastor at Conscious Baptist Church. He told me to read through 1st and 2nd Timothy. I completely forgot. When I tell you this is how I completely forgot about God's calling, about where it was at. I went through 2nd Timothy and I found it. And it's like God's calling me back. And now I am just like, I can't get enough of the Bible. I can't get enough of it. I worship him every single day now. It's just if you picture a man taking a snowball at the top of a mountain and rolling it down, it's turning into an avalanche now. And God has provided so massively. I went from being homeless to me inheriting this house at Conscious. My mom, through circumstances, had to move down to help my grandmother. She has cancer now. At the time when she moved down there, my grandmother broke her hip, and she was needed down there, and Mom and me just started discussing about me taking over the place, and that I would need to work, and I had. It's been so hard. I have the inside to deal with. I have the outside to deal with. It's been challenged me in every single way on prioritizing my life. And God has just completely changed the person who I was when I came up to Conscious to when I came back to now. I went from a lover of violence to a lover of peace. I went from that. During that time, when I was ran for 7 years, God literally took me down to nothing. And now he's building me back up the way he wants his will, the way he wants me to be as a man. He literally had to destroy my identity and who I was during that 7 years. That was his purpose. He had to destroy it. So he could build me back up. Now I'm getting back into shape. I'm getting strong. My views of strength now have completely changed. He's blessed me with this state parks job. He's continually blessed me, and I love him so much. There's not a person on this planet that I love more than Jesus at all. Dude's amazing. Like, my God is a goat. He's just awesome. He is the greatest of all time. There is nobody that compares to him. He is El Olam. That's my favorite name of God, is El Olam. Some verses say it's King of Eternity. Some say it's Everlasting God. And that's just my favorite name is El Olam. And, yeah. This kind of stays back. When I was in my early 20s, God gave me a Bible verse. When I was in Fort Benning, Georgia, after I gotten saved, I found this medal. It had sword and shield on it. I love knights. I love knights so much. I love what they stood for. The Crusades were bad, though. That was just bad. Those aren't the nights that I'm talking about. I'm talking about the actual nights. The Crusades those were just horrible. Um, yeah, that was just horrible. I didn't pay attention to the Bible verse on it. I was praying to. It was when I was meeting for Greg Elder for coffee at Starbucks. I prayed one day, high at the middle of my hip. I didn't pay attention to the Bible verse at all. I prayed one day for God to give me a verse, and it was before I ran. I could use for all life and all occasions. And I felt the Holy Spirit just kind of it was like this, I don't know how to describe it. It was like this, the room closed, right, in Starbucks that I was in. It just closed in. And I looked down, and on the back of the verse was Joshua 1:9. Have I not commanded you? Be strong and courageous. Do not be afraid. Do not be discouraged, for the Lord your God is with you wherever you go. When I was in the mission trips he was with me, when I ran, he never left me. Yes, he was destroying me. He had to. But his discipline is for my good. And yes, Satan has tried to use that. I threw away so many good jobs. So many. And what the enemy meant for evil, he now means for good, and now he's blessing my life. So there it is. That's my testimony. Now I'm on fire for Jesus again. Literally, I have so much fire for him. Today, I cannot wait for Bible study. It's in my standing firm. I just love his word. And I've made mistakes since then, right? Some quite recently, and the ones recently that I made, pretty much I was trying to date, and I met this beautiful woman, and God has let me know that I'm not ready. I'm not ready, and that's fine. That's fine. He knows what's best for me. I made several mistakes, and I know what he's calling to me to is going to be awesome, because he has completely. He has my okay to take away things. If it's not good for me, take it away. Fine. If it's not what you want from me right now, take it away. Fine. And before I wasn't like that. Before I was just, it's mine. It's mine. I don't want you to have it. It's mine. That's how I was before, when I was 20, when I was in my early 20s. I didn't want to surrender, right? It's still hard to surrender now sometimes, but it comes more easy. The person I was, that old man who I was before I was saved, and that old man, and even during my flesh, occasionally rises up in me. But God is good, and he is going to, if this last 2 years was like this, I imagine what the next 4 or 5 will be. What these next 5 years, 7 years running, 7 years, what this next 5 years could possibly look like. Just me running after him. It's just going to be great. I know he's going to have awesome things planned. I don't know what he's going to do. I have no idea what my life is going to look like now. Before I did, now I don't. He could have me move from this beautiful place. And if that's what he wants, that's what he wants. He's called me back to ministry. And that's not like, for me it's different. It's mostly talking to people in the streets, the homeless, in my comings and goings. And even then, God could change how my view of ministry looks. So I know he's calling me back. But right now he wants me to follow him. He told me a couple Wednesdays ago, or a couple weeks ago in a church, will you follow me if you're alone? pastor was talking about, do you trust me if you're alone? But I was hearing God said to you, will you follow me if you were alone? Which they both were speaking, they were both being taught, but I've heard the same Bible verse with Peter, and it was in John 21, where he asked, Jesus asked him 3 times, and I read it again yesterday, and he says, follow me. Or 2 days ago. Sorry, 2 days ago. He says, follow me. Follow. Unlike before where I blinked, no, I'm not blinking. I'm like, okay, you want me to follow you? Where are we going? And yeah, well, that's my testimony. And I know that God will do amazing things. So, yeah. Anyways, I'll let you guys go. You have a wonderful day, and God bless.